Okay, again. If I go again through our 4-day agenda, in day 1, we go through reception room, how to create a living room. And we heard about architecture basics. On day 2, we heard about bathroom and kitchen design. So we heard about useful tools for tiling and KBB. Today we are going to talk about documentation. So everything about when you have plans already created, how to print it out and all calculations with it. And tomorrow we will talk about lights and rendering in the project. So today we are going to open, of course, we will see the webinar, and in the webinar you're going to see a project which is already made, and we will see how to create dimensions, wall elevations, room area calculations, all the documentation, and how to put everything on paper to get your PDF and print it out. Yes, and I think we are going to see also the mood board. So mood boards are more for interior designers. And after this webinar, I'm going to give you the homework if somebody will want to do it. And I'm going to show you a video of a project that I created for one virtual expo that we had. It was a project where I transformed DVG to 3D model. So I had this plan, which was created in AutoCAD, and I created a 3D model from it, just like schematic, no technical drawing. And I created 3D visuals first in Archline Professional and then in Archline Live. So that will be after the webinar of documentation. So, okay. Now we are going to see the webinar of documentation. I'm going to stop my video. And enjoy the webinar. Sorry, I will do it again.
Documentation side. So this might not be that exciting, but when you think about it, whenever you are creating a design, what really pays the bills is the documentation that you create. So you not only have to be very sharp with how you are designing a living room like this one, but you also have to sell the design somehow, and selling the design is done with layouts, like the one you see on the picture right now, or whether your mood board is convincing enough, or if you have the right dimensions that you can communicate with your clients. So all these components are adding together, communicating your design successfully. For those of you who are new to this, let me talk about Archline in general, because the software I'm going to use is a CAD/BIM 3-dimensional modeling software called Archline XP, targeted for interior design and architectural purposes. Today we are going to look at documentation, that's true, but more from the interior design perspective. So this is what we are hoping to achieve, but this is not where we are starting. So I'm going to load up the starting position of this project, and we are going to just go with File, Open Project, and we are opening up the starting position of this this content. So I'm just going to quit without saving, because we are looking to recreate what we are seeing here. Okay, so where do we start? first of all, we have a three-dimensional model of a living room. That was the first thing we created earlier this week, I think. So we have, let me just navigate around with the page up, page down keys to just look around the perspectives and see what we have. It's a very clean and neat and simple project, but this would be able to demonstrate the documentation tools just as perfectly. So what is the first thing that we do? Well, the first thing that I usually do is to create a mood board. Well, the mood board is there to sort of communicate the atmosphere, the mood of your room, and that is nothing else but a layout onto which you are collecting images, materials, pictures, snapshots. So that's what we are creating first. We go to documentation and we click on mood board, and we are creating a new mood board, which is done like this. So first you have to decide on the paper size. We have the standard paper sizes. I'm usually partial to A3 because that's a large enough size. So I'm just going to go with A3 and in a landscape position. Now I could potentially position a plot stamp or title box. This time I'm not doing it, so I'm disabling this and I'm going to hit OK, and that would give me an empty sheet of paper. Now what do we do next? First of all, I need to have a couple of let's have a couple of pictures. I do have a collection of images. Let me just open this up. So I have a folder in which I have all these images, which are sort of, I did not use these images in my design, but they were sort of influencing the mood of the design. So I want to make like a palette of these pictures onto this layout. To translate it, what I just said, we are going to learn how to import images onto a layout. That's simple as that. So what we do is that we go to mood board, raster image, and now we are browsing for the images. Let's start with this site over here, interior_01. When I import something, I have several choices in terms of how transparent I want these images to be. I'm just going to hit OK. Hit one pick point of the image, and then the image is going to be too large, but now the software allows me to scale it back. So if I click again, the image would be the right size. Let's import a couple of more. There are two ways to import an image. One is through the menu. So you click mood board, raster image, and then you pick something else. Let's say this cinnamon collection over here, like that. But that's one way to do it. The other way is to just open up the file browser and import them with drag and drop. I like this chocolatey thing, so I'm just going to import it like that. Click, drag, release. And let's have a few more. Maybe this, I think these are coffee beans. Always time for coffee. Oh, this is, well, if you know what these things are, let me know. I'm not good with spices, so you let me know what these things are. So I'm just going to import a few more things. Maybe this texture is very good, so I'm just going to drag and drop. Notice that my mood board is looking quite shabby, so I need to organize this content somehow. What do I do? First of all, if I click on an image, I have the movement markers in the middle, so I can just grab onto it and move the image like that. If I want to resize this image because it's way too large, then I'm just going to move it somewhere else. Let's say move it here. Oh, by the way, if you don't want these guidelines to appear, click on this magnet, because that would disable the snapping, and just click and enable it back again, because otherwise you're going to have a difficult time. I want to resize this image now. What do? I either click on the sides and I go with scale like that, or I can just go to the menu down here and I can here edit the image with these menus. So, but I'm just going to show that a little bit later. So again, I'm moving this image up here, and I have this image up here. Okay, here's the problem. I like this image, but I only like the color palette. I don't need the cinnamon up here. So what do? I go to the local context menu of the image while it's selected, go to this arrow over here, and I'm just going to say clip the image, and we're just going to crop the image back. So now the image has this kind of guidelines, and if I click on the sides, I can trim the image back. So that way I only see, once I hit enter, what I want to see. So again, I think now I could even scale it back up. So I'm just going to do it just like that. So one image should be here, and another image should be there, and this image should be made a bit larger. Yeah. Okay, here's one problem that I'm facing with right now. This image is covering this one. That's not good. I want to flip their position. How do I do that? I do that by going to the mood board menu and say that I want to change the drawing order and I want to move an element forward, so to the front. I select this option and click on the image that I want to move forward, and then it's going to be, you know, trading places. If I click on it again, they're going to be flipped. So that's the way you do it. I'm just going to go back to mood board, draw to front. Yeah, I think now I have to put this back on. So I'm just going to say that I want to move this back, and now the image is pushed back. Another problem that I'm facing with right now is that this particular image, I need to flip this. There's no reason for that, I just want to show you how that's done. So you go to the context menu and you go with edit, and here if I say flip horizontally, then I just flipped it. So that's how you do it. So that's how you import pictures and images to the floor plan, to the mood board. Another task is how do we import materials, because there's quite a few amounts of materials over here. Let's say this one, for example, the color of the curtain. So I select the curtain, right click, and I say find material, like that, and now I have this Amazilla whatever number here. I activate my my layout again, and I'm just grabbing on the material, dragging it and dropping it, and then the software asks me, how do you want to place this material? I want to place it as a raster image, and then the story goes back to its beginning. So I'm just going to move it like that. Okay, that's fine. Well, when it comes to organization, this might be a bit shabby, but this gives you an idea. Another task I want to solve is how to put text onto the layout. Well, couldn't be easier. If I go to drafting and I go to text, let's click place it, and now I can type my text, which should be mood board, and hit OK. Okay, problem. If I place this text now, it's going to be amazingly huge. Why is that? Well, it's because the text has a certain size, which is actually 0.2 meters, so it's like 20 centimeters, which would be fine on a floor plan view. So if I put text over here, it's going to be the actual size, but this layout is already scaled down. So what I need to do, I have to select the text and scale it back down. I think a tenfold scaling down would be good. So I'm just typing in an extra 0, and then the text would be fine. Okay, let me just put it right here. I don't like the style of the text. I want to give it another font. So I do that by clicking on the text, and on the property grid on the left hand side I can change the font, which should be I think this Century Gothic would be fine. Let me just find something which yeah, this one is better. I think I need to make it bold. That's much better. And the color, well, it's black and everything else is brownish and beige. I need to change it somehow, so I'm just going to say that the color should be something else. I'm just going to go with maybe a brownish hue. Mahogany, I think that's good. Okay, here we go. So that's perfect. Meanwhile, there are questions coming in regarding the mood boards. Keep them coming. I will turn back to them later on. Okay, so we have the mood board ready, and if you want to print this later on, I will show you how to do that. But let's discuss now the floor plan itself. By the way, if you have many things appearing, you have many windows, and sometimes they appear, sometimes they disappear. With this button down here, you can reorganize your layout. Moreover, if you have one of the layouts selected and you push the F2 key, then the layout would be, or the viewport would be magnified. So if you only want to focus on this part, then just push the F2 key, and then it jumps to a larger scale. If you just click on the floor plan, push F2, and it's going to be magnified. By the way, this is F2 is a short key for this. So that's another tip I can teach you about that. Now let's talk about how to get actual documentation and dimensions from this floor plan. And for this, first of all, I'm going to magnify this. I'm just going to go with this tool over here, and I want to dimension this floor plan. But for an architectural kind of layout, I don't need this many things. I don't need the objects. For that, I need to disable what I see on the floor plan. Now, we already know that there are obviously layers that we can enable and disable. However, there's an easier way to do it. If you go to the to the layer walk tool over here, then you can see exactly what is currently enabled and disabled on your floor plan. So you see that there's quite a few elements on the furniture layer, lighting, decor, curtains. We don't need them. All we need is the walls and the slabs. If you want to select two things, just control and click, and then you have the elements that you need. Okay, so that's what we need. That's what we want to dimension. Walls, doors, windows. The next thing, we are going to do a dimensioning, but we don't want to do this manually. We go to dimension, go to building, and all walls. Now what this does is that it tells you that based on the current settings, these are the things that the software is going to measure up. So it's going to measure the wall endpoints, connections, door, window frame, etc. And from this palette I can build up what I want to measure and how. So currently I have 4 setups: door, window, wall endpoints, internal rooms and wall thicknesses, overall external building dimensions. I think maybe I do not need that, to be honest. So these 3 are fine. So I'm just going to hit OK, highlight the whole building, hit enter, and then decide how far I want the dimension lines to go. Let's say up until to this point. Hit click, and then the dimension lines appear. Now, the funny things about these dimension lines is that they are in connection with my drawing. What does that mean? It means that, for example, this window is like this wide. But if I go back and change the width to something else, let's say to 1 meters, then the dimension lines would update as well. So now it goes to 1 meter as well. So whatever you do, the dimension lines are going to update themselves. So I'm just going to undo this. Okay, this has been an automated dimensioning, but this still doesn't explain how to dimension things individually. By the way, if you are curious about why the dimension looks like that, this is something which is defined by the window and door properties. So if you want to change that because of your local standards, they might be different. Go to the window and door properties, go to dimension and consignment, and set it up here. Okay. Let's place a manual measurement, one by ourselves. So let's say this part of the wall, which is by the way over there with the London poster, I want to dimension myself. So I'm just going to go for a simple length dimension, and I'm just going to say, I'm sorry, I need to select the 2D for this. So I'm going to go with a length dimension, click on one part, click the other part, and offset the dimension the way you want, like this. So now again, you have made a manual dimension. You might want to know how to set up the dimension styles. You do that in the properties. So you go to properties, length dimension, and here you can set up the units that you are using, the decimals, and the architectural ticks at the end. If you want to use another symbol, you can do that here, and you can save this kind of styles as a localized, your own style if you want to set that up. That's not something a beginner should know, but in any case, for those of you advanced users, this is where you can do that. So that's for dimensions. Again, just a refresher, they are in connection with your model, and try your best to make them automatically generated, because that way it would be always in connection with what you have there. Let's talk about two-dimensional symbols, because we want to, for example, position a north sign, elevation on the floor plan maybe, or entrance symbol. Let's start with what we call elevation on floor plan. Now what this does is that you have to select an item that you want to measure up. For example, this time it would be the door, like that. I mean, sorry, it's a wall. It's not a door, of course it's not. And so click a point that you want to actually dimension. By the way, if I ever get lost, if I don't know what to do next, this prompt up here is telling you what and how you should do. So let's just start again. If I go to elevation of floor plan, now the software tells me choose an object to query its height points, wall, slab, object, or roof. So I'm just going to click on the slab, for example, and click on the point where I want to query the height, and I have to decide if I want to measure the top or the bottom of the structure. For now I want to measure the bottom of the wall, so I'm just going to hit there, and I know that the value is now minus 0.3 meters, because this is actually the slab's value, but I'm going to change it to 0 meters because that's what I want to place down. If I hit OK, the software offers me a preview of the two-dimensional symbol that is going to be added. This is what we use in Hungary. If you are using something else, go with the replace option and find something else, or create your own groups for that. This is just a preview, so that's not the actual value that is going to be shown. That's just a preview of how it's going to look like. So hit OK, and then I can position my elevation marker like this. So this is how you do it. Again, this is in connection with the drawing, so if anything changes, this updates as well. So let's start with another. What should be next? I think the room and area stamp would be the next two-dimensional group that we are placing. Now, when it comes to rooms, the software is able to calculate elements which are highlighted or bound by walls. By the way, if I hover my mouse here, you see a very strange sketching problem that I did. The ceiling was made a bit hastily, so this point is not good. If I click on this move node, I can fix that. So that's just a quick detour, so as we are not leaving anything unsaid. Okay, let's go with room and area. Well, how does this work? If I go with room by walls, the software is able to sort of recognize how far the rooms go. So if I click, now the software is going to recognize the boundaries of the room, and it tells me it's currently 34 square meters plus change. And now it says living room concrete. This is a default that you can set up. So if you go to the room and area properties, you can set up how these norms and naming conventions should look like. So for example, now this particular living room, if I click on the pencil icon, it tells me that it is a living room because it was, I told the software before, but if I want to rename that, maybe in certain, what should this be? So it's reception room, for example. I can rename that. I can define what kind of covering the room has. I think it has, if I remember well, it has a parquet covering. And if I hit OK, the stamp updates. Again, you can move this somewhere else if you want, but that's just one way to do it. However, if you want to have manual control over what your room shape is, you can do that. For example, let's delete this stamp. Let's imagine that we have one part of the room which is a dining area, which is actually the case over here, and another part which is a living room. So how do we assign the roles? We do that with the room and area, room by polygon tool. Again, I'll show it again. Maybe I click too hastily. So room and area, room by polygon. And then you have the ability to manually sketch the boundary of the room. So in this way, the software is going to ignore the actual walls. Instead, it listens to you how big the room is. Now, I don't know where to snap to, so I'm just going to hover my mouse up here and allow the software to appear with these green lines. And then if I click back, hit enter, the software tells me what is the height of the slab and wall. This is basically needed for calculation. Let's just use it as it is. Hit OK. And then I have one room with these boundaries. Let me just rename this. So from now on, this is be called, let's go to calculated values. This is going to be called living room with dash or without dash, based on your preferences. And the covering is going to be parquet. And now, let me just move this a little bit, like this. And now the remaining part, I'm going to assign as a dining area. So I'm just going to highlight the points. Again, snap to this point, snap to the opposite side. Perfect. Snap like this. Just use the snapping option, it just makes things much easier. So enter, again, enter, and now if I have another room, which I'm going to rename, and it's going to be called, I said dining, right? Dining. And the covering, well, it could be parquet, but maybe I changed my mind and I want to have another, maybe marble tiled or ceramic tile sort of covering. So that's how you do it. That's how you assign room or location sort of roles by yourself. So that's how you do that. And the next logical thing would be is to have sort of like an entrance sign, because that is what we need here, like a two-dimensional group, an arrow which shows that this is how I'm going to enter the location. So I'm just going to go to the object library, and here I have a group library over here. So if I go with what should we look for? Let's look for arrows. And I think I'm going to use this arrow 03, drag, drop it, like that. And I want to turn it, so I'm just going to click on it, click the rotation marker and flip 80 degrees. Let me just find another one. I think that wasn't the one that I was looking for. arrow number 2 would be fine, like that. So I'm just going to rotate it like that, and I'm just going to snap it somewhere here. So I'm clicking on the end, snap it to this point, and there we go. So now we have like an entrance marker over here. You can move this if you want, you can fill it up with color if you need, but that's just the idea of how to use two-dimensional groups in your floor plan. Next logical step is the north sign. Now the north sign is a bit similar to an entrance sign, but a bit tricky as well. I'm showing you why. So let's assume that I already know the north direction of this model, and let's assume that it's like this. So I'm just going to click on the north direction marker, and I'm going to turn this compass over here like that. And from now on, the project north is like this. So I want to enter a compass to signify the north direction, which I can do by clicking on the design center, and I think under the signs and sorry, I entered the library, but I didn't need to. I'm not sure where to find it. I think it's in the North English folder. Let's find one which is actually good for my purposes. Let's say this one. If I drag and drop this element, you see that it's already rotated automatically. So I don't need to rotate it to be in sync with the actual north direction. The software does it on my behalf. So let's click it. There are two problems with this. This symbol. First of all, it's green while it should be black, so I'm just going to hit the group itself and say that I want to force the color of the group, because if I highlight this element, I see that the group's color should be black, but the arrow is still green. Why is that? That is because the individual lines and hatch patterns which were created were originally green, and the group is not enforcing its color, not imposing its color onto this group. But if I select it and I say force color, it's going to be black. So the other problem is that this is too large. I need to scale it down, but without, instead of coming up with numbers how to scale this down, let's use a formula. It's very important that in Archline, whenever you can type in a value, you can use formulas, multiplication, deduction, whatever you want. So now I'm going to delete the meter signifier and say that it's going to be 2.72 meters divided by 2. Hit enter, and the software scales the group the way I want. So again, if you have any element and you want to change its size, you can add multipliers or divisions or anything like that. So formulas work here perfectly. Okay, having said that regarding the signs and symbols, let's proceed now with a text. I think now it's enough space to put a text over here, so I'm just going to go with drafting, text, and here I need to enter, let's say it's going to be a living, or what should be living room, and I think with a dash, that will be in order. And another thing I should add may be the scale 1 to 100. Okay, and the text should be here, cancel. Now my problem here is that that this is too small. So if I click on the size signifiers, then I can make it a little bit larger. I'm just wondering why it hasn't added the line break. Let me just investigate this a bit further. If I click on the marker over here, or I'm just clicking here to sort of signify the text itself, I'm not sure why it's not adding that, but I have to investigate that further. So I'm just going to do it like this. So if you want to add text and you want to resize it, that's how you do it. You can remove it somewhere else. Now it's been asked that how do I set up a default text style? Now this is important because you might want to sort of give another style to your software, a dimension or a text style that you can use, maybe another font, maybe another font size. So how do we do that? We go to text, right click and say property. And I'm sorry, that's not that. So let me just think for a second, because yeah, just a second. I'm just going to find where to find the text style. I think let me go back to this schedule later, because I'm pretty sure I can do that. Just need to remember how. Okay, so regarding the text, we are going to come back to that point. Next logical point is that we are going to print a two-dimensional floor plan of this location. How do we do that? Well, we could do it right now, but the problem is that in the 3D I have all the objects, but on the 2D I don't have nothing. So I need to fill this up back with lives, which I do by clicking on the layer walk and again turning off on the visibility of all the elements that I need, including curtains, lighting, etc. And now I see that my stamps should be moved a little bit further like this, so that way it will be less crowded. So now I'm able to print this out only after I have moved this as well, because I don't like crowded drawings. I'm sure that you don't like that either. So now I want to print the whole thing. So how do I do that? Well, the easiest way to do it is to go to File, Print to PDF, and then the software prompts me to this printing window where I can set up the printing properties. Now, the first thing I have to decide is that where I want to print this. Obviously, you could find another printer if you want to actually print to a printer. If you have another PDF norm that you want to use it in, you can do that here. I'm just going to use as PDF printing, and clicking on the File button over here, I can define where I want to save my my floor plan. So this would be here, and I'm just going to name it floor plan. Okay, this hasn't printed it yet. This is just a signifier of the name. So now comes the paper size, which should be A3, and I think it should be a landscape one. Okay, I want to print the entire drawing, and I want to define the scale factor. Now, here I have several choices. If I say scale to fit, then the software is going to distort the drawing into a shape that actually fills out the paper, but this is not in an actual scale. So this is like 38 point something, which is not, you know, an actual norm. So instead of using scale to fit, always try to find a scale with which the drawing would fit. So now it's going to be 1 to 50. So if I'm just going to say apply, close this and change this text actually, because it should be 1 to 50. So let's do it like that. And now do it again. So just print to PDF. I don't want to have anachronisms, you know, or controversies that I have put 100 here and 50 there. So now paper size is good, orientation is perfect, but the drawing is not in center. So I have to click center the plot. And now I have the drawing nicely and neatly aligned with the center in 1 to 50 scale. So if I hit print now, then the software thinks for a second, and then it's going to save the document. And if you have a PDF viewer that I have over here, then it's going to appear. If you're not satisfied with line weights or anything like that, you can go back to the software and change these things there. But this is how you can make a printout of your floor plan. Let me just close this down and proceed with another task, which is about proceeding with the documentation, because, you know, having just one single floor plan is not enough. You want to create like a layout of certain assorted drawings and dimensions, and only one part of it would be the floor plan. We also need wall elevations, and that we can create using the documentation tool. Now, wall elevations, I already talked about architectural sections before. These elevations are going to be a bit similar. I have two choices. I either want to have like an image view of the wall that I'm looking at, or I want to have a drawing version. Now, both have advantages and disadvantages. Let me just start with image. What I do, I click on the wall that I want to dimension up, and I'm not sure if you see it from this plant, but I have an arrow which shows me where I'm looking the wall from. So I'm just going to click, and now the software tells me this is what I currently see. If I click on the side of this rectangle, I can offset it all the way to the edge of the building, and then this would be what the width of what I'm seeing. And also I can trim it back, because if I don't want to see that many things, I can trim back. I don't want to see this, what is this? Maybe like a small sitting device. So I'm trimming it back. I don't want to see this. And if I hit enter, the software thinks for a second, and it tells me that now I ended up with a PNG image. Now, regarding the images, you can define what kind of file format you need. I always use PNG because that's what I can easily edit in GIMP, the image manipulation software. And also you can decide on the size. So I'm just going to use it as it is, and then I can place it down. So I could place it down onto the same layout as the drawing, or if you want to collect it in a different way, then you can just go to View, Add to the drawing, and name this as wall elevations. So now you have a clean drawing, and you can now go back to your floor plan, hit Ctrl X to cut this image, click a picking point, now it's gone. So if I go to my other layout, Ctrl V would place it. So now if I don't want to sort of collect everything onto the same level, then I can do it just this way. So if I go back to the wall elevations, maybe I need to have another one. So I'm just going to go with, again, documentation, wall elevation. It's going to be this time a drawing version. And click on this wall over here. And I'm looking at it from here. Do I want to trim it back? No, I think this is fine. Hit enter. And now I ended up with another drawing. So if I highlight it, Control X, it's better to, collect them separately, because that way your design would be much cleaner. So let me show you how to dimension onto these documents, because even though this looks like a picture, it's still got nodes onto which you can dimension things. So let's dimension this, which we can do by, first of all, let's reorganize the working area with this button over here, and go with dimension. And I'm going to do a series of horizontal dimensions, which is done like this. So first, pick the point that you want to start the measurements from. You see that when I hover my mouse, the software snaps to that point. So this would be the first point. I'm sorry, that I need to have horizontal ones, not like that. So I'm going to go with horizontal. So dimension this up like this, and then every time you click on anything, the software is adding the dimension line like that. So I'm going to dimension it like this, and eventually I would have the wall thickness like that. So if the wall thickness is too close to the other dimensions, maybe your drawing gets too crowded, then you just click on the rotation markers, and you can, the movement markers, and you can move these things. If you want to measure the height of these drawing elements, maybe you want to measure the sill height and the window height, then you can do an elevation on section action, which is done like this. So first, again, just follow what is written here. Pick the first point to dimension, and pick the second point and offset the numbers like that, like this, and I forgot about the 0, so I'm just going to hit that as well. So that's how you can do it on an image version. If you want to use it on a drawing version, then it's even easier, because then you have all the numbers or the nodes over here, so you can snap to these points easily. One thing I want to point out though is that you might want to get the hatch patterns right. So if you, for example, want to know how come the slab looks like this on an image and looks like that on a section, then it's a very easy answer. So let me just go to the 3D and select the slab itself. Let's go to its properties and go to the slab layers, and here it has single layer concrete setup. So if I click on the concrete marker, I have the selection ability to pick the right material for this slab. But instead of picking another one, I'm going with this cogwheel icon, where if I click edit material, I can set up how my object appears on an image and how it would look like on a hatch. So that's where you can find the actual hatch pattern and set up how your hatches should look like. That's just a detour, another tip for the advanced users out there. So let's return back to the wall elevations. If I want to name them, I can actually write things onto this. So that would be another way to organize your drawings. Name your drawings as you want. Now, once we have created the wall elevations, I think now it's time to collect things together onto a nice little plot layout. Now, the plot layout, or layouts for short, can be created with documentation, and clicking on plot layout, and we prepare one. Now, what is actually a plot layout? It is actually very similar to a mood board. This would be a paper which is going to collect your drawing elements, but this time it's going to collect the drawings in a scaled down version. Up until to this point, we worked in a 1:1 scale, so we haven't needed to scale down anything except when we were printing it. But this time it's going to be scaled down even when it gets to the paper. Without explaining further, let's just jump in and see. So first, define the paper size. Up until to this point, nothing fancy. Works the same as the mood board. So paper size is A3. Landscape. This time I need to have a title box. I'm going to use this one, English 1 horizontal. Hit OK. And now the software is preparing me with a stamp like that one. So if you have project parameters that you want to fill out, maybe you already know the consigner of this, then you can just put in, let's say this time it would be, well, the Archline XP would be the name, and the designer, well, I don't want to take credit for this because it's being made by another user of ours, so it's going to be Berta, like that. And now the title box is automatically filled. If you want to fill it later on, you can do that, but these are basic data that we are going to work with. What is the next task? First, we have to push the drawing elements onto this layout in a scaled down version. So I'm just going to go with the Project Navigator. Now, if you haven't used the Project Navigator before, this is a very neat tool to organize your drawing content. If you don't see it, maybe it's hidden, maybe it's a reclusive little thing. So if you hover your mouse over the Project Navigator, it should appear. And if you move your mouse away, it should collapse. But if you want to make it stay where it is, hover your mouse and use this little pin thing to pin it out. So now it's there. Okay, so first we need to insert the ground floor drawing onto this layout. So I'm just going to grab it, move it, and release it. Now the software asks me, what is the scale in which you want to place this drawing element? It's going to be 1 to 50, like this. So now click and it's there. Okay, that was easy enough. How do we insert our wall elevations? Let's go with that. So wall elevations are here. I drag, drop, and it's going to be a 1 to 100. And my problem is that I don't really, well, I think 1 to 50 would be better, to be honest. So I'm just going to undo this, and it's going to be in 1 to 50. Like that. Okay, here we go. Problem. It's too large. Things are like getting away from the paper, and I don't need this image version anyway. So what do? I click on the drawing that I have inserted, and I offset this this back. Does this mean that I'm deleting the drawing? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that this bluish rectangle is like a window through which I'm looking at the original content. So if I click on this, for example, I see that this is what I see. So if I have things outside of this rectangle, it's not going to be featured. So that's how you can easily push things onto a layout. What happens if you have any kind of change on your drawing? Maybe I go back to the drawing and I'm removing this symbol. I don't need that. So now there's discrepancy here, because here I don't have only the original content, I don't have the arrow, but on the layout I still do. So what I need to do, I have to select the part which is pasted, go to the local menu and say refresh this, because if I do, the software is going to compare this layout with the original drawing, and if there's anything that it needs to delete, then it does. So it's going to get rid of the extra arrow that I don't need there. What else do we need here? A thing that I haven't showed you is how to actually create a snapshot of your project, and how to make a colored version of the floor plan. Both I'm going to show you now. Let's start with the colored version. So if I go to back to the two-dimensional sort of layout, and if I say I want to have a snapshot, I want to create or delete a floor snapshot like that, and it's going to be, well, you have to be careful about this value. This is the plane or the height in which the drawing is going to be cut, because if it's too low or too high, then your windows might not be visible there. 1.5 meters will be fine, but if you have windows which are starting above that value or finish below that value, then they are going to be missing from this. So let's just hit OK, and then the software is going to award me with textured floor plan, which if I click on it, I can move somewhere else. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to have this part of the drawing on my layout. How do I do that? Well, first I click on documentation, plot layout, and copy part to plot layout, either by a rectangle or a polyline. So I'm just going to go with rectangle. Let's just select this. Let's go back to copy parts to rectangle and select it. Pick a point with which I'm going to move it, like that. And then I activate the layout, go back there, and now I want to paste it in a 1 to 100 scale. So I'm just going to say plot layout, and paste to plot layout in 1:100 scale like that. Now here's the thing, I want to make sure that that whoever is going to view this layout would understand that this particular drawing is 1:100 and not 1:50. So logical step would be is to add a piece of text over here. So I'm just going to go with drafting text and put in scale 1:100. I'm sorry, 100, not 200, obviously. But the problem is that now again the text is going to be too large, which takes us back to the original problem that we had, namely that if you are putting down text like this, they are going to be too large. So you need to scale this back down, which we can do by scaling it down like this. So let's just make sure it's smaller. I think that should be even smaller. So I think what would be the actual size? Maybe 20 millimeters would be. I think that's even too large, so that should be 5 millimeters. Yeah, here we go. So that's how you do it. Point to remember here that on the layout everything is scaled down. So if you put down something with its original real world scale, it's going to be too large. Similarly, if you are using drawing elements on an actual one-to-one scaled working environment, it's going to be too large. So that these are the only things to remember regarding that. So I already showed you how to refresh the layout. I think now there's no work around it. We have to print this. Before I do, one thing I was forgetting to mention is the snapshots. If you have a 3D view that you want to save somehow, then you can do it by going to documentation, snapshot, and snapshot of the 3D view like that. Now, when you do that, you have two choices. You either save it onto the floor plan or you save it as an offline copy. I'm going to save it as an offline copy. I'm going to tell you in a second why. So I'm just going to find it another resolution, click save. And for now, I'm going to save it among the documentation elements. It's going to be called a, what should the name be? 3D snapshot 02. Okay. Because from now on, this image could be used even on a mood board or a layout. So you don't have to only use content from within the project. You can use it from within the file browser like that. So if you have this and you want to paste it, you can do it like this. So that was something that I haven't mentioned, but I didn't want to miss that one. So let's go back to the layout. And now it's time to print it. We go to print to PDF, which is shortcut over here, so you don't have to go all the way back here. Instead, you can just go to documentation and print to PDF. Couple of things we have to figure out here because it's well, it's easy to print it. There's just a few things you have to keep an eye on. First, make sure PDF printing is highlighted, and make sure you have another name for this. So I'm just going to name this layout 02. I find it very difficult to type while I talk. I wonder why that is. So let's just hit save. Define the paper size. A3 would be fine. And well, why is the drawing so small? This is because the drawing is scaled down. Well, that's fine, wouldn't you say? I mean, this is 1:50, right? Well, yes, but if I already scaled it down to 1:50, I don't need to scale it down any further. So I need to go to a 1:1 scale. Otherwise, it's going to be too small. Next problem, the drawing is not in center, so I'm just going to hit center the plot, and now it's neatly in center. Okay, I think this is good. So if all the line weights are good, and if I have everything set up, I can just hit print, and then the result would be pushed in a nice little plot layout in a second. So let me just drag it onto here. This is appearing in another window. So let's just zoom in. So this is how you create a layout. If you want to create a multi-page layout, make sure you check out my architectural course, because then we just discussed how to create a print queue, print queue of certain print jobs. This is, I think, too advanced now to discuss, but I think this is what we wanted to cover from beginning to end. So from the very first modeling parts all the way to dimensions, symbols, text, colored version of the same project elements, 3D snapshots, wall elevations, that is very important, and also lastly we have a plot layout. Everything is nicely put together.
Okay, we have listened the first webinar. Now I'm going to show you the second part. how transform DVD drawing to 3D model. So I will start now. I hope you hear me well. So, okay. So in my document, I find my floor plan, right? It is a DVG file, and I drag and drop it in my Archline environment, and this showed up. This window with plan I'm going to import. And when I import it, all lines are lines, all polylines are polylines, and everything is as the way it was in AutoCAD or 2D software. So it all can be used the same as it was created before. And with all the lines, also the layers are imported, the same as they were in AutoCAD or somewhere else. So right now I locked all the layers so I can draw the 3D model on top of this 2D model. And first I'm going to start with the walls, and I'm going to pick walls on DVG drawing. This is a very useful tool because I only pick 3 points and the wall is created. So I don't have to pre-organize the thickness of the wall. I can just pick 3 points, the length and the thickness, and the walls are created. So that's how I create all the walls in this building. And if I want, I can change the setting of the walls later. So this video is fastened because I want just to show you what I have used in this project. And the next thing is the doors and the windows, which is the same actually. You have the two doors on DVG drawing also. So we can just pick 2 points and the doors are created. If I want to change the setting of the door, I can do it later when they are already put in the project. And also the slab, I can just pick all the walls. This is the tool slab on walls. And I can just mark all the walls and the slab is created under. The slab is better to be chosen on the 3D view because I can regulate it easily. So I can change it so the terrace can be created. This is the floor manager. Here I want to rename my plans or change its height or levels. Actually, the floor manager is the setting of the layers of this building. So when I create a wall, it depends on the floor manager what height the wall has. So now I want to hide all the layers, the 2D layers, and copy the floor, the 3D model of the floor plan. Now I did also the slab of the first floor. And again, now I will import the DVG from first floor. And what here I did was that I created all the walls again for the first floor. And now I will drag and drop materials from the library, from material library. And now I'm going to do the stairs from building and stair tool and created the hole above the stairs. I will send you the link of this video and it will not be fast forward, so you can check out all the tools in slow way. So here I created also the railing in 3D. The roof is also very easy tool to use. You can just mark all the walls and the roof will be created. If you want to create a very technical constructions of the roof, this tool is also very deep design, so you can focus on that. Here I just pick a shape of the roof and create a slope, and that was okay for this project. And when the roof is created, everything above the roof can't be visible. So that's how roof creates the wall. Now I'm going to terrain. Here I will just create a slab terrain just to make some surrounding. And now I think I'm going to create the terrace of the house. First, I'm going to create a slab above the slab, and then I'm going to create a construction of the terrace. So now I'm going to put columns in, and then the roof of the terrace. The roof of the terrace I created with beams, and then I imported wooden panels from 3D Warehouse from the online library. So these panels are already imported from 3D Warehouse. I put it in the project. And I can see that the panels are put on the floor. I then change its dimensions, and I change the base elevation of the panels. Okay, so my terrace is schematically done. Now I am hiding all the layers. I don't want that to be shown. And now I'm doing the dimensions of this house and change its position to be closer to the building. And also in the first floor, I'm going to do the same. Now I'm doing the room area that we have seen today at today's webinar. So I pick the room, and if something doesn't work, then I do with the polygon. So now the room area is calculated. And I change the name of the room. Okay, so this is fastened forward. What I will do now, I think I will create plot layout. So these floor plans will be copied to my paper. First, I mark the plan that I wanted to be printed, and I paste it on the paper. And here is what you have seen in today's webinar. So I create a PDF of the plan. This is a simple example of a 3D model of a house and like a conceptual project, which can be done in very short time if you learn all these tools. So here I created also the section. Section is just one tool which can be done with creating just one line, and the section is created. Then I put it on the paper, which also will be printed out with PDF. And now I create the inside of the house, so the interior with Room Maker, if you remember from day one that we have. And here I first do the curtains, then the electricity, the sockets, and then I import the pictures. So I do something inside the conceptual interior, very not much. So here I pick the materials of the surfaces. Here will be the kitchen. And now I position the view of the camera so I can later create renders. So I create the points of the camera view. I can also later change the picture style if I want. So here I create the interior also in the first floor. So the Room Maker cannot be used necessary. It's just some tool that is very cool to use, but you can all done in 3D model, in 3D view. Now I am creating the lights. First, the light did not show up because it has the wrong base elevation position. Then I find the right one. And now I will create the dining room area. So I import the furniture from my library and change it to the right position, so it is scaled to my 2D plan. And I import some chairs from 3D Warehouse, which is integrated inside of the Archline. And here I create also the living room area. Here I decided not to have the picture and I want to have the TV. I can see that if I drag and drop a TV to a wall, that the vertical surface is picked. I'm changing the elements. And I think now I will go to the kitchen design, which we have seen in day 2. I use now the auto layout and just draw lines where I want my kitchen to stand. So kitchen is now ready, but it is very weirdly made, so I change it. I change all the cabinets. So I change the dimensions of the cabinets and import new ones. I change also the curtains, the countertop of the kitchen. I did now the LED lights under the cabinets. We will see that tomorrow. And now I create the wall elevation of the interior, because now my interior has been done and I want to create plans for interior design. I chose wall elevation tool, and then I did the dimensions of the wall elevation plan. These plans are colored. You can use also technical drawing to be more detailed. and one snapshot if you want to have the colored plan. And I put this wall elevation also on the paper to create it PDF. The next thing will be the surrounding, I think. These are the technical drawings of this interior, which I also put on the paper just for the example. And now I will go to Google Maps integration. I choose location and the map will be imported. I use this Google Map integration just for schematically showing where the road is in this location. So I import now the trees from library and insert the people so the scale can be seen. Now I do the rendering. First I do one for fun and I can see the darkness is not okay, the lighting. So I change the material of the floor. In rendering settings, it's very important that which material you use, because all material have surface which must be in good lighting. And here I went into the Google Maps on internet and create a picture. I created a picture of the street view and import it in this project. And I put it in the background, so it is very realistic like. So the last thing, I think I put some chairs on the terrace and the table. And now I import it in the Archline Live. So we were now working in Archline Professional. Now I imported the model in Archline Live, which is made only for visuals. So I deleted the trees because I want to put new ones in. The Archline Live has very cool elements for creating visuals. And all elements which I created in Professional are still there. So I can just change the surfaces and put some people inside. I also created some grass and played with light, with sunlight. And when I was finished, I created like pictures how my animation is going to flow. And then I filmed the animation and that's that. That's how Archline Live works very easily. That's it. Okay, the last thing I'm going to show you is the homework if somebody wants to do it. So today we have seen the documentation of the project. I will share the project with you, so you can only focus on the documentation of the project. You can do the dimension, room area, create plot style, mood board if you want, and so on. So that's what you can do. I will share that with you. Okay. That's it. If you have any question, you can ask me now. I would like to also hear your feedbacks, if you have any. If you are working, few of you have sent me your homework. It's very nice. It's nice to see that you are working along. If you have any specific topic to talk about, you can share it to me and I can send maybe a video, or if you have any specific problem, you can share it with me and I will create a video and send it back. That's how I do in the previous workshop. So, okay, tomorrow we have the last day. We will talk about lighting, and I will send you the exam, which is a key to obtain the certificate of the workshop. So, do you have any questions? Okay, so I will see you tomorrow at 5. Thank you for being here with me. Bye bye.